Hey there! Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you that we had a little bit of a tech issue with this episode, and the first 4 minutes of this episode, the audio quality is not the best. I know you're going to hang in with me there because you're not listening for audio quality, you're listening for the content, right? I hope so. Thank you for your patience. Just get through the first 4 minutes, and after that, the audio gets better. And I promise next time I'll double check my mic. Thank you. Bye.
Hello and welcome to episode number 245 of the Launch Lounge podcast. In today's episode, you'll discover how to create a strategic launch calendar that actually works with your life, not against it, so you can scale to 7 figures without burning out. So stay tuned. Hello. It is lovely for me to be here with you. I have just returned. Well, I've been back for 2 weeks, but I batched a lot of podcast content before I left, and I've been back for 2 weeks from a 3-week holiday in Japan, and it was absolutely incredible. And it is delightful for me to be back here with you, to be back in your ears. I received an email this morning from somebody who said she loves listening while she's cooking and she's got her toddler running around, and she knows that's exactly how I started as well. And it just warms my heart receiving your emails. So keep them coming. Send them to podcast@thelaunchlOunge.com. I love hearing where you're listening. I love hearing what you're learning, and I love finding out what you love about the show. Now, I've got to start today's episode by telling you this, and I'm not proud of it, right? But you know that I don't hold back and I share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Back in 2023, I completely overloaded my team. Absolutely, completely overloaded everyone. I started creating so many new projects and so many new launches and so many new offers that it ended up just becoming absolute chaos. And it was so hard keeping track of what's going on where and what's making progress and what's not making progress. And I think at the time I was so overwhelmed that I was definitely not the best leader for my team that I could have been. But I think my team was also so overwhelmed because they didn't have a leader who was, pointing them in a direction to know what matters and what doesn't matter. And I feel embarrassed telling you this because I have had the absolute fortune, the luck, I have been incredibly lucky to have been working with multi-6 and 7-figure online course creators, coaches, business owners, digital marketers who make millions of dollars for the last almost 10 years, right? So I've had this front row seat to how the big boys do it, right? And the big girls as well. And of course, from seeing how they do it, I've learned so much. And I have built my own, the agency. I've built the agency to 7 figures. I've made multiple 6 figures selling my own online courses. So, there's been a degree of success that I can say, yeah, I've achieved this too, but I've also messed up. And it's only once you mess up personally that you can kind of go, okay, let me share this with you, because now I'm speaking from a place of authority. I'm not just speaking from a place of what I see works with clients and what I see doesn't work with clients, even though having had that front row seat for so long, I've worked out very quickly. I can very quickly see when a client is running on chaos versus when a client is running on organized scaling. That's basically the reason my team and I have been able to put systems and processes in place that help 6-figure course creators, 6-figure coaches, 6-figure online experts scale to 7 figures, is because we've seen so many different applications of the same systems and processes that actually work and that gets you out of that chaos, that what I call spaghetti on the wall strategies. And then in 2023, I did it to my own team. The growth became so fast. I had the urge to rebrand. I had the urge to clean things up. I stopped podcasting. I thought it was going to be temporary. It ended up being temporary because here I am back right now. but it ended up being almost 2.5 years until I started podcasting again. So, why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I want to share with you today a system, a process, a launch planning strategy that is going to set you up for success and help you plan your launches the way that I see the most organized launchers do it, the ones who consistently grow year on year. And I want to share with you what I did wrong, what I did right, and what I see them doing right as well.
Sometimes we start working with clients in the agency who is at that multi six figure level, but not quite at seven figures yet. And they go through a phase where everything is just chaos. And what I find is it shows up in two different ways. The one way is it's this high energy, motivated, usually comes with the beginning of the year, excitement about how much they're going to grow this year. And then they want to throw everything and the dog at it, right? And then there's the burnout, which is the pendulum swinging. Their team becomes burnt out, their team's tired. But the most important thing that kind of falls to the side when this happens is proper data tracking and proper launch debriefing falls to the wayside. When a client is in this spaghetti on the wall, massive growth, have to do it all really quickly sort of mindset, right? And they're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And what ends up happening is they keep reinventing the wheel. So this client would consistently be coming up with new offers, coming up with new promotions, coming up with new ideas, trying new funnels, trying new quick fixes. There's no clear building of one brick upon the next upon the next. And like I said, I call it the spaghetti on the wall strategy. It's the spaghetti on the wall phase, maybe, of building a business where chaos and lack of structure got you where you are, but it's not going to get you where you want to go. And it's a recipe for burnout. It's a recipe for team members quitting. And it is a recipe for not knowing exactly what to do next to reach the next milestone. I had this client once, and I can tell you guys about her because this is going back years and years, but it's such a great example of this. The client the client had a large social media following. So you need some context. There was a large social media following, so large organic growth. We'd been working with them on their ads for about a year at this stage. They were in a state of chaos. Lucky for this entrepreneur or the business owner, she had a really great assistant or a really great business manager, really. But this poor girl was working 24/7. She was burnt out. She was overwhelmed. She was exhausted. And she was always kind of on the edge, right? And they were spending about two and a half to 5K per launch. They did launches for a membership that was a fairly low dollar membership, like $47 or something. And they would easily make $40,000, $50,000 in one launch from $2,000 to $5,000 spent in a launch. And it would work. It worked really well. This business, the business owner had a brilliant personality for social media, and she grew organically wonderfully, really wonderfully. And they had a good offer, right? They had a really good offer. And at the time, the business owner decided it was January and they were launching in January, but it was kind of already getting to the first or the second week of January. And there still was no pre-launch work done. There was no launch work done. There were no landing pages. There was nothing there. And now, usually, to give you an idea, when we run ads for a launch, we get landing pages from our clients a month in advance, often more than a month, because we still have to go and create copy. We still have to go and create the creatives, the images, the videos. Things need to be set up. It needs to go back and forth between our team and their team for approval. So there's a bit of a timeline there, right? But this client came back from Christmas break and decided that year was going to be the year she's going to scale to $10 million. She was already at about two, right? But remember, She had no processes in place. She had no structure in place, and her assistant or her business manager was burnt out, right? So we get on a call and she says, well, we're going to launch next week. She's just suddenly decided she's going to do a webinar, which she's never done before. And there's still no pages, but she wants us to spend $20,000 on ads. And I had to step in at this time and say to her, I feel that it is because she kind of looked at it and went, well, if I've spent 2 to 5 and made 40, if I spend 20K, I'm going to make, 4 times as much. And if I do that 4 times a year, it's going to work. Now, doesn't really pan out that doesn't really work that way, right? Because you need time to warm up your audience. It's not just money in, money out. There's also the funnel to consider. You have to think about how long did it take to warm these people up? What did they do before they were in this launch? There's marketing stuff that you cannot just reduce ads to a 1+1 equation. You can't think, if you spent 5K and made 40, if you now spend 20K, you're going to make 4 times that, 120, or 160, or however much that is. You can't think that. It doesn't work that way because you have not considered audience temperature. You haven't considered the time it took to warm your audience up. You haven't considered how many of those audience members were on your list and for how long were they there and what did you do to warm them up. All of those funnel marketing stuff, that's the stuff that makes money. Because remember, ads is just traffic, but marketing is what makes money. Funnels are what makes money. Offers are what makes money. And that stuff's all marketing stuff, right? So I had to step in and say to her, I think it would be irresponsible to spend 20K on the launch. She didn't agree with me, but we landed on, I think we ended up spending about 12K, and she ended up making the same amount as what she made the previous launch, 40 or however, $50,000, which, by all accounts is a great launch, but not if you've spent twice as much as you used to or 3 times as much as you used to and you made the same amount. But that's how it works. If you're not going to unpack your data, if you're not going to unpack your funnel, if you're not going to unpack what actually worked during your previous launch, what didn't work during your previous launch, what do you need to test because you're not sure if it worked or not, and then build on it and then do more of what worked, do less of what didn't work, and test more things so that you are making decisions based on what actually works. So, unfortunately, this is something that happens fairly often, and that's why I'm sharing it with you so that it never happens with you. But I don't want you to get caught in this cycle of constant launching, thinking that that is the only way to grow. Here's what I've learned, right? After working with hundreds of 6 and 7 figure clients in our agency, the most profitable businesses aren't the ones doing the most launches. They're the ones doing the right launches at the right time. And that's what I want for you. I want you to do the right launches at the right time so that you have a little bit of space to unpack the results, to understand the results, and to then replicate what worked really well. So I'm going to share with you a few things that's going to help you create your launch calendar for 2025 so that you don't burn out. So number one, I want you to think of your strategic launch calendar framework. And I want you to remember this story that I just told you, because that is why random launching doesn't work. And that is why random launching ends up burning you out, because you have more of a short-term vision and a vision of let's do more so that we make more, instead of let's do more of what works and never reinvent the wheel so that we can build on what works. The ideal number of launches in your business is going to be dependent on the business stage that you're in. So you're going to have to consider, how many team members do you have? If you're still a solopreneur and it's just you need to consider things that are going to happen in your life, right? Life stuff is going to come up. Now, I don't want you to use life stuff ever as an excuse for not getting your launches up, but also be aware that we, especially if you're a Gen Xer like me, we were taught as kids to suck it up and just get it done. And there's a time and a place for it. Goodness me, I wish I could get my kids to suck it up a little bit more often. I go, how is this generation that we're raising, we're Gen Xers, how do they have so little resilience? How do they have so little, like, just suck it up energy? I'm trying really hard with my kids, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. Anyway, so think about the number of team members you have. And if it's just you, pull back, do it properly, but make sure you don't ever do something that you've already done before. So if you've already created ads, you don't need new ads. Use the old ads. If you've already created social media posts for your launch, reuse those social media posts. If you already wrote that email sequence, reuse it. If you already created the sales page, reuse it. We all want to invent new things. That's part of what created my mess in 2023 is I wanted to do new stuff. I should have just stuck with what was working, right? The other thing that's going to impact the number of launches you're going to choose for yourself in a year is the number of launches you've successfully completed with a high level of data collected so that it can tell you what worked and what didn't work. If you completed a launch and you have no idea how many people signed up for that webinar, you have no idea how many people showed up, you have no idea how many people clicked to go to the sales page, you have no idea what the sales page conversion rate was, then you need to rinse and repeat that launch and track the data first, because you will be building on things that you don't know worked or didn't work. So you might actually end up doing more of what didn't work instead of doing more of what worked. Okay? So that's how you're going to choose. That's kind of what influences the number of launches you're going to choose in your year. If you have a bigger team, if you have a more established team, if you have more documented data, that's fantastic. You can just build upon it. All right. Now, how do you map your energy levels against your launch schedule? I want you to think of this. I did a bit of research to find out if this is true for other people because I wrote this down as like energy levels and launch schedules. And I think about myself, and I think about if I sit here and I think about 2025 and what I want to achieve, I am at the age of 44 and a half, old enough to know I'm probably going to come up with a list of things I want to achieve this year. And then I'm going to have to pull back on about 70% of that, right? I am not going to be able to achieve maybe 70% of that. And you might be sitting there thinking that is ridiculous. But look, little Miss ADHD over here have disappointed myself plenty of times in life that I have now learned that I always think I can achieve more than I actually can. And I have learned to focus on incremental growth instead of dramatic growth, right? But I went online because I wanted to research if this is what I'm experiencing, this feeling of, okay, I need to pare back at least 70% of what I think I'm going to do. Is that just me, or is this a thing? And I found some research, right? So I found a study on students by Bueller, Griffin, and Ross, done in 1994, right? So this is even before the internet was really a big thing. College students were asked how long it would take them to finish an assignment. On average, they estimated 30 days. Only 30% of students finished within that time frame. Many took nearly double the original estimate. Okay, so that's students, but we know students are out drinking and partying and doing all sorts of stuff. What about other sectors? IT and business projects. McKinsey and Oxford study in 2012 did a study on 1,500 large IT projects, and they found that the average project was 45% over budget. 7 out of 10 projects delivered less value than planned, and some projects cost more than 200% over budget. So I want you to listen to that and give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. If it's taken you longer to build your business, if it's cost more to build your business, give yourself a break. You're in good company. Sounds like that's about the human experience, right? If you're a successful course creator, coach, or online expert who's ready to stop being the bottleneck in your own growth, listen up. We're currently accepting applications for 2 spots in our Meta Ads agency. What makes us different? We're not just your ads team. We're your growth partners who help you navigate the whole picture: your funnel strategy, your customer journey, and your scaling roadmap. We dive deep into your data to make sure every marketing dollar works harder for you. If you're doing at least 10K per month in revenue, have a proven offer that converts, and you're ready to invest at least 3K a month in ads to scale strategically, we'd love to talk. We only have 2 spots available, and they will go fast. This is for you if you want expert guidance and proven strategies that deliver predictable results. Go to thelaunchlounge.com/agency to apply now. There's a study done by the American Psychological Association, the General Workplace Productivity Study. I don't know what year it was done in. Research suggests that employees tend to overestimate how much they can complete in a given time period by 30 to 40%. And here is my favorite one. This is my favorite one because I live in Australia. I'm an Australian citizen and I love the Sydney Opera House. I tell you, if you ever have the opportunity to go to Sydney and to sit down at the Opera Bar. It's this bar right in front of the Opera House, and you have the Opera House on the one side and the bridge on the other side and the ferries coming by. It is just magical. Originally, the Sydney Opera House was planned to be completed in 4 years at a $7 million cost. It ended up taking 14 years and cost $102 million. That is over 14 times the budget, right? Now, I am very grateful that they didn't give up. I am very happy that they didn't say, oh, dang, we're just going to keep this halfway, or let's start something new and not finish this, right? Because I do love the Sydney Opera House. It is a magically beautiful place to be. If you can ever go there, do yourself a favor. But what I'm saying is, whatever you sat down and decided you're going to accomplish this year, or whatever the number of launches is that you said, me and my team, we're going to do this, maybe just ask yourself if it would be wise to scale back a little bit, right? I had this one client who is an absolute business genius, right? Absolute genius. She's a New York Times bestseller. She's created multiple multi-million dollar businesses, and she had an online course. I never even met the client because I worked with her team. She is literally just in and she asks a few executive questions and she's done, right? But I adore this person because I know how smart she is. So she did the same launch year on year on year for 3 years that we worked with them. They used the same pre-launch content. They used the same launch videos. They launched Jeff Walker style video launch style. Same videos, same emails, same sales page. Every year, twice a year. They did one in the spring. They did one in the fall. They had one in the spring and one in the fall, and one in the spring and one in the fall. The spring and the fall ones had different content because it was seasonally based, but it was the same thing. And every year, they just dialed it in a little bit and dialed it in a little bit and dialed it in a little bit. They didn't make major changes. By the time they finished with us, they were on to like $2.5 million launches every time. So I realized that there's really something to be learned here from just consistently tracking your numbers, dialing it in, tracking your numbers, dialing it in, and never doing the same thing twice. Unless you know you're actually making it better, right? But be sure that you absolutely know that. So that's number one, the strategic launch calendar framework. Work out what works for your business? What do you have the capacity for? Dial it back and try to stick to doing things where you are doing something strategically and then improving it. Number two, revenue planning. Revenue planning without the overwhelm. If you already have some revenue from your launches, you can work your way backwards and set yourself a revenue goal and then work backwards and say, all right, well, based on historical data, if I want to achieve said goal, now I can work my way backwards. And there's a little asterisk here. There's a little footnote that I want to make. This is not a perfect science. Again, you can use this to set your goals, to give you guidance, but markets change, audiences change, platforms change, algorithms change, TikTok comes and goes. We never know what's going to happen. Zuckerberg decides suddenly now we're not regulating content anymore. It's just things change. So it's not always as black and white as saying, well, we made 40,000 in this launch. Therefore, if we double the budget, we're going to make 80,000. It's not quite as simple as that. But having a faulty crystal ball is probably better than having no crystal ball at all, right? But it only works if you already have some data in place, because otherwise it's just wishful thinking, right? You can't work your way backwards based on a hope and a prayer. So if you have data from at least one profitable launch, I want you to look at the following. I want you to ask yourself, how big was your list when you did that launch? How long would it take to fill up your list with a new group of hot leads if you were to repeat the results from the previous launch? And I want you to consider that some people may buy on the second or third round. So you're not exactly starting from nothing, right? So it's not like if you had a list of 10,000 people, now you have to build it to 20,000. It's not exactly that, but you have to ask yourself, like, how big was my list when I started with my launch? What percentage of the people on my list joined my launch? How many of them signed up for my webinar or my video series or my challenge or whatever? And what would I have to do if I wanted the same number of people to enter my launch again? And there would be some list building involved, right? And it cannot all come from ads, because those people are going to be colder than people who come from social media or from collaborations or from speaking gigs or from affiliates or something. So let's talk about different types of launches and when to use each one so that you can distribute your revenue a little bit. Big live launches create a lot of energy, and it take up a lot of your team's energy as well. So you need to break it up. You give them 1 quarter to plan a launch, 1 quarter to launch, and then in the next quarter, while you start planning the next one, you're also debriefing the previous one. And you can use evergreen funnels in between those big live launches to add to your revenue and your non-launching quarters, right? But please, it's just a recipe for burnout. And I just see it so often. Like, you cannot go live launch to live launch to live launch to live launch to live launch and just continue to throw new things out there and expect to continue to make money and expect to continue to have a happy team. It just doesn't happen. And I'm saying this to you because I see it with clients. I see team members burning out. I see people become really disgruntled and it becomes messy, and then you're losing money and you don't know why. So how do you layer evergreen revenue between live launches? This is going to depend on what your evergreen offer is. If your evergreen offer competes with your live offer, so it's kind of a different offer but to the same ideal customer, you're going to want to turn your evergreen offer off when you're live launching, right? Don't ever compete. Let your evergreen compete with your live launch. But if your evergreen offer is not a direct competitor to your live launch, so maybe your evergreen is a course and your live launch is for coaching, and it's relevant to the same ideal customer, but your live launch is for a higher level of working with you, that's not a competition. That is a synergistic relationship. So that's when you don't need to turn your evergreen offer off, right? So here's a bit of a 90-day pre-launch runway concept that I want you to try on. 90 days out from your live launch, start building your email list with a lead magnet that aligns with your offer. Then 60 days out, start talking about the main problem and desires that your ideal customer has as it relates to your offer. 30 days out, increase your pre-launch content on socials, your blog, your podcast, your email list. 30 days out from a launch, you should only be talking about pain points your ideal customer has, desires they have, or testimonials. Be sharing success stories. And then you're going to fill your launch with hot leads. You're going to launch, you're going to onboard your new students, and you're going to debrief. You are going to make documents and spreadsheets of all the numbers, and you're going to ask yourself, literally go through your funnel step by step as you would have if you were your own customer. Did I see an ad or did I see a social media post? Did I sign up for that webinar or that video series or challenge? When I signed up, did I open those emails? Did I join? Did I come to it? Did I attend live? If I did attend live, did I stay for the pitch? If I stayed for the pitch, did I click to the sales page? If I clicked to the sales page, did I actually buy? So you can follow your numbers step by step through your funnel and debrief on that. And then you can ask me, I'll give you the benchmarks guide. I've got it here. We give it for students. I've got a benchmarks guide so that you can know whether your launch performed well or not. If you send me an email, podcast@thelaunchlounge.com, I will send you the benchmarks guide. But you've got to send me an email. It's my way of getting you guys to talk to me. Send me an email. I'll send you the benchmarks guide. All right. The next thing I want to share with you is some systems for sustainable scalability. Are you still with me? Do you need to have a sip of water or, run around the house for a minute? This has been a lot, hasn't it? I hope your brain is not fried right now. Let's come back here for a second. Take a deep breath and let's keep going. Systems for sustainable scaling. Start creating SOPs from day one. And I know. When I was little, no, not when I was little. I feel like when I was little, when I started my business and I heard the word SOP, I wanted to shout. It's kind of a little bit like when I heard the word ideal customer avatar. I just like, not with that again. Because unfortunately, your standard operating procedure documents is the thing that's going to help you not do the same thing twice. It's the thing that's going to save you time in the long run. It's the thing you end up being able to give to someone else so you don't have to schedule those emails, so you don't have to set up that tagging, so you don't have to build that page, so you don't have to write that copy. If you've got everything written down, and start just with your thoughts, just start by plonking your thoughts about what your launch should look like down on a piece of paper, on a Google Doc, because even that then starts to develop a life of its own and becomes a strategy, right? Write down what you're doing, every single thing you're doing in your launch. Write it down, because I promise you, next time you're going to launch, you're going to have forgotten that you did all those things, and maybe you're even going to forget how to do those things. Record your screen. Use Loom or Zoom or whatever you can to record your screen. And then you can give it to AI and ask it to turn it into an SOP for you, so that you never do the same thing twice, or at the very least, never figure out how to do the same thing twice. The next thing about systems for sustainable scaling is think about your team capacity and plan for your team capacity. Don't do what I did and just throw everything at them. If you're doing it all on your own, you need to be writing everything down, because remember, you're going to overestimate how much you can achieve by at least 70%, right? And that just makes you human. But your first hire, it'll take them a while to learn. You've got to be patient and you've got to be clear, and you have to be able to give them clear instructions. Otherwise, you set them up to fail. And then when your team starts to grow, you've got to trust your team. Trust them, but keep them focused on the things that moves the needle. Because even the best team members who work really hard, if they don't have a leader showing them what is the most important thing, the thing that moves the needle, the thing that results in revenue, if they don't have someone showing them that, they're just doing busy work and it's not their fault, it's yours. Create some content batching strategies. Look, I went overseas for 3 weeks and I did not record a single podcast for 3 weeks because I batched it all, right? And when you're launching, do what my $2.5 million launch client did and reuse your launch content. You don't need new themes for your launches. You don't need new metaphors or new pages or new, like, stop the madness. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just repeat what worked. Just keep repeating what worked and track your data and do more of that. And then, as far as your tech stack goes, you don't need more tech. You need the tech that you know how to work. That's the tech that's going to make it the easiest. Don't try to learn new tech in the middle of a live launch. All right, what can you do right now, today, so that you can create a launch plan that's not a pain in the ass? Here's exactly what I want you to do this week. Pull out your calendar and mark your personal non-negotiables first. I want you to look at your year calendar. And if you're a mom, put in the school holidays first. The next thing, put in your holidays, right? Make sure you block off weekends. If you're still in that phase where you're working weekends, make sure you block off one weekend a month where you're not touching work. You've got to put those non-negotiables in your calendar first, because otherwise it's all going to run away with you. Identify your highest energy months. I can tell you now, I get very little done in January. January, coming out of Christmas, coming out of the holidays, my kids are still around. Our summer holiday here in Australia starts sort of midway through December and ends at the end of January. So January is what I imagine a lot of you guys in the Northern Hemisphere probably have in July or August. I am useless in January. The other month that's challenging for me that I've learned the hard way now is September. September school holidays, I tend to be away. I tend to be on holiday. I take a break then. And we have an affiliate launch that's always going on in September. And it's been year after year, I've noticed, dang, I'm on holiday every time I'm trying to launch. So I have to consider that this year. And I'm doing that. So think about your high energy months. And if you're married and you have a partner, or you have a partner who is helping you, supporting you, what's their high energy months as well? What does their holiday schedule look like? Is there a time where you're going to have to block time off because they're on holiday? That's something that happens in my house. I have to consider my husband's need for holidays as well. Then map out your next 2 launches, not the whole year, just the 2 launches. And maybe it is a spring launch, March, April, May, something like that. And maybe it is a autumn launch, maybe October, November launch. Decide your first 2, or maybe it's one now and the same one 6 weeks later, but literally rinse and repeat. Decide what you're going to do, but map out just 2 launches. Block out your pre-launch runway periods, because if you run out of time and you're already in pre-launch when you're still creating your launch stuff, you're not going to have a pre-launch. You're going to be working through your pre-launch, and then your launch isn't going to be as big as you want it to be. And then schedule your team planning sessions. Even if that means you're scheduling a meeting with your dog, which means you get to sit down with yourself and go through your meeting, your launch plan meeting. Schedule those sessions. Evaluate, how are you tracking for what you said you were going to get done by this date. If you're behind, move the deadline. Remember, most people overestimate what they can get done by 70%. All right. The first win you're looking for is simply having clarity on your next launch date and your runway period. This alone will help you make better decisions about where to focus your energy right now. Remember, your launch calendar should work for you, not against you. You didn't build your freedom empire to become a slave to constant launching. Start with these steps I've given you today, and you'll be amazed at how much more sustainable and profitable your launches become. This coming Thursday, we're diving into something really exciting: the 5 hidden revenue streams that can give you more freedom between launches. You won't want to miss this one. Until then, go build your freedom empire. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye. If you want an easy way to build an audience that is ready to buy without wasting money or pulling your hair out trying to work the tech, then get the free 5-day Facebook and Instagram ads training now. In just 5 days, you'll learn how to set up high-converting list-building ads, navigate the ads manager like a pro, and master the exact formula through profitable ad spend. No fluff, no guesswork, just proven strategies that work. The best part? This comprehensive video training is completely free, and you'll get lifetime access to our brand new 2025 edition as soon as it launches. Ready to transform those scary ad campaigns into your most powerful lead generation tool? Head over to thelaunchlounge.com/getmyAdUp or click the link in the show notes. Don't wait. Your future customers are scrolling through their news feeds right now.